All right, welcome back, Hononegah, Algebra 1, Section 4.7, last section of Chapter 4. Today we're going to talk about piecewise function, and it means literally that, pieces of functions. And so this can get a little bit more challenging, so we'll see how today goes. But in the beginning, this goes back to Chapter 3. If I give you the x, okay, of a function, then they want me to plug -3 in for x, and evaluate. And this is going to be important for piecewise function because ultimately you're going to have pieces of functions. And so you're going to need to be able to evaluate a number at a particular spot. So if I plug -3 in for x, I'm going to get -16 for f of 3. If I plug 3 in for g of x here, and I'm going to put 3 in for x, so I'm going to get 9 plus 4, which is 13. So again, we're plugging 3 in for the x's and evaluating. So I'm going to plug 3 in for x and evaluate. And then I'm going to put -2 in for x and evaluate. So just circling my answers here. So again, this goes back to Chapter 3 when we evaluated functions at a particular x value. Here's what it's going to look like. And I know some of you are going to look at that and go, oh my goodness. Anytime you have a piecewise function, it's basically like having, again, pieces of functions. So each piece of the function applies differently. So part of the domain, notice the x values you're allowed to use. Okay, you're only allowed to use certain x values with certain pieces. So the x minus 2 function, you're only allowed to use 0 and any number above 0, or excuse me, any number below 0. And the next one, the 2x plus 1, you're only allowed to use numbers above 0. And so this will make sense as we go through this a little bit more, but it is a little bit challenging. Here's what it's saying. F of 0. First, I have to know where does 0 located in the domain? Is it below -2? Is it between -2 and 5? Or is it greater than 5? And so 0 is located in the middle one. Okay, 0 is located between -2 and 5. So what that means is that's the function that I'm going to use for 0. So if I plug 0 into that function, I'm going to get 2 as an answer. Next one, they want me to put -8. -8 is located in the top function. Note it's located here. So if I plug it into, there is no x to actually plug it in. So any number that's below -2 has an automatic answer of 3. So that f of -2, the -2 tells me which one of these functions that I want to plug this into. Well, -2 is located in the middle function because again, it's less than or equal to. So what if I plug -2 into the middle function? I'm going to get 0 as an answer. So I'm going to circle my answers as I go here. Next one, they want me to plug in 7. So again, your first thing you have to establish is which one of the functions does 7 belong to. 7 belongs to that domain. 7 is greater than 5. So then plug 7 in for x. Graphing now. All right, this is what I tell people when they go to graph these. Is basically you have two separate questions. You have a y equals -x minus 4, and you have a y equals x. And you're going to do an xy chart for both of these. Also, the first number in there needs to be the first number of the domain. So let's talk about the top one. -x minus 4 if x is less than 0. So starting with 0 and going less. The next one starts at 0 and goes greater. So what if I put 0 into the top function? This put 0 into -x minus 4. If I put 0, it's -0 minus 4, which would be -4. I'm putting 0 in for x. So now I'm going to put -1 in for x. So -1, which would be 1, minus 4. Now I'm going to put -2 in for x, and I'm going to get -2, and -3 in for x, and I'm going to get -1. Here's what you got to decide. Is the first one going to be an open circle or a closed circle? 0, -4 is going to be an open circle. Reason it's going to be an open circle is there's no equal to line. And then graph the remaining points. Always start with the open or closed circle and go in one direction. Don't go in two directions. Next one. I started off with 0. I'm going to plug 0 in for x. So I'm going to put 0 in for this x, and I'm going to get 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 0, 0 is a closed circle. The reason why this one's a closed circle is because there's an equal to line in the domain. And then I graph the other points, and that is the piecewise function. So it's two separate, it's a piece of two different functions. Now, one thing I want to make sure I talk about here is about the open and closed circle, because I felt like I maybe didn't talk about that well enough. So the domain for the first one, the top one, is x is less than 0. So even though I'm starting off with 0, this one would be an open circle because there's no equal to line. And the bottom one is x is greater than or equal to 0. So that's why this one is a closed circle, because there's an equal to line. Let's try another one of those. So I have two separate questions. And I have two different domains. So the first one starts at 2, and it's closed. And I'm going greater. So 2, 3, 4. The second one, again, starts at 2, but this time it's open, and it's going less. Plug 2 in for x. So if I plug 2 in for that x, I would get 0. If I plug 3 in for that x, I get 1. So the first one is at 2, 0, and it's closed. 3, 1, and it goes in one direction. Next one, I'm going to put 2 in place of this x. I'm going to this equation now. So 4 times 2, 4 times 1, 4 times 0. This time, it's an open circle. So open circle at 2, 8. And 1, 4, 0, 0. Again, always start with the first one and go in the direction. So again, the first number is always the open or closed circle, and then connect the dots only going in one direction. You try. So I would hit the pause button right now and see if you can try this one, these three questions by yourself. All right, welcome back. So I got y equals x plus 1. So not a lot of room here. Y equals x plus 1. I'm going to do an xy chart for this one. And then y equals -x. And I'm going to do an xy chart for this one. The first number in the sequence is 0, and this one's open, and it's going less. The next one also is 0. This time it's closed, and this one's going greater than 0. All right, so I'm going to plug 0 into the y equals x plus 1. So I get 1, 0, -1. So open circle at 0, 1. -1, 0, -2, -1, it goes in this direction. Next one, I'm going to put 0 in place of the y equals -x. So I get 0, -1, -2. This one's closed at 0, 0. So these kind of go really close to each other. 1, -1, and so this one goes downward. Evaluate. They're merely asking me to evaluate. So first I got to decide if it goes into the top. It goes into the top function. Oops, that moved on me. Does it go into the top function or the bottom function? Well, 4 is greater than 0, so it goes in the bottom function. So plug 4 into the bottom function. 0, now this is a little bit tricky. Does it go in the top function or the bottom function? It actually goes into the top function because it's equal to. So I'm going to plug 0 into the top function. So these are piecewise functions. They can be a little bit tricky, so please make sure you're asking questions if you need to. Your homework assignment tonight, I believe, is out of the book. Do you have any questions on that? Make sure that you talk to your teacher. It is. It's on page 222. If you have any questions, make sure you talk to your teacher, and good luck.